Today I'm going to see if I can bring this 80-ish year old fan back to life and make it a usable fixture around my house and in my garage. So I picked this up a few months back at an auction. I wanted it, another person wanted it, but I still walked away with it for fairly cheap. Looks like it's a 3-speed fan. I love the fact that it actually tilts any which way. You can tilt it back almost. You can tilt it up to push the air up. You can tilt it straight down and dry something on the floor. I can really use it as a directional fan. I don't necessarily want to restore this because I still want to use it. I think it's an awesome piece of equipment, and I think it has a ton of life left. I believe that it's somewhere, I'm going to guesstimate that it looks like it's just by the Bakelite knob and some other pieces of it. I think it's a little pre-50s. I think it's probably 40s. But it could be anywhere from the 30s to the 50s. I really don't think it's any newer than that. The cord is cracked. Looks like it has the original Bakelite cord end on it with a round plug. This is not the original cord. It would have had a cloth wrapped cord. This looks like it's actually aluminum centered, so it's probably replaced sometime in the 70s when they were doing more aluminum wiring than, well, now they do, but in the 70s, but everything I've seen in the 80s and 90s was all copper. But we're going to go through this wiring and just make sure it's sound to run. It's a brand called Mimar. Mimar Products Incorporated, Brooklyn, New York. Definitely not a brand that I don't think is around anymore. Not something like General Electric or something. Now there are a lot of people that actually collect these and stuff like this, but it's more sought after. People want the brass bladed ones, the ones from the early 1900s, the 20s or something, because you can polish it up. This one actually has aluminum blades that I could, I guess, polish up if I really wanted to, and mirror finish. It would look kind of cool to have chrome blades spinning around, but for now I just want it functioning. I'm going to take off the back now. There's a bunch of screws. Here we can see on the inside, you can see this cord a little bit better. So it's just 2 wires that actually feed the motor, and it appears they run through here and probably down through this leg and then into the base. So let's take off the base now and see what's inside. And it appears I'm not the first one in here. I didn't think I was because this cord's been replaced. This looks original. These do not. But we'll take all those off, get inside. It is UL listed, so that might help me date it. And I'm not sure when stuff started getting UL listed. So the base looks either like a cast zinc or aluminum. I'm not sure. It's not steel though. And we got our 3-speed switch right here. And it looks like, so we got our main power cord that comes in, feeds right here to one side of the switch, and the other side goes directly to the motor. And then this is the other side of the motor switch. And so the power is diverted. It looks like one switch straight through. So this must be some sort of, I'm assuming this is like a transformer style resistor. So they're just using a bunch of wire to create resistance to reduce the voltage to the motor. Could be wrong, to get the 3 speeds, and the final speed is just straight through. So this is the final speed, and then this would probably be your low, your medium, and your final, your high speed. So kind of interesting. So this fabric wrapped cord will need to be, we're going to replace all of this that runs up through there. And there's my wires. And then we just got our wires that come out. And it's just clip those off. I got some new cord. This is actually out of some other, probably a vacuum cleaner or something that I just gutted a piece of cord off of. It's already shielded. This is 18 gauge, and this appears to be about the same. I can't imagine this fan using more than maybe like 100 watts or so. So we'll just put that together. We'll tape it up. And we'll let it pull the new cord through. So we're going to try to get some of this overspray off. I'm going to use a little bit of carburetor cleaner, which is essentially just acetone. And we're going to take some steel wool to it. So now that all the white paint came off, and it actually wants to take the original paint off underneath it. I was able to get some off, the most of it, so it doesn't look as bad. I used some goof off, and that seemed to work a little bit better than the acetone. I'm not sure. This is probably an oil base. Could be, you know, it's whatever somebody painted their house with. So I got this cord all in there, and now we're just going to feed it back down the original hole and put this back together. Tin the leads going up to my motor, and then this one was connected in here. And I ran into a little bit of trouble because the hole is closed up. Let's see if we can get... Yep, we got to go through the hole. Now for the main power cord. I went through my box of cords and I was looking at stuff, and I got a bunch that already have plugs on the ends. But I ended up thinking that because this would originally had a nice big round cloth line plug, I'd use a nice big round cord. And I have this stuff. I have some, what is this? Some EW or something. Neoprene, Coleman cable. I don't know. So I got this 3-strand 18 gauge right here that I'm going to use as my power cord. It doesn't have an end on it, which I don't mind, because to keep to the unit itself, I believe this is the original cord end. I'm going to actually reuse this. There's nothing wrong with it. Both plugs are tight and it all looks good, and that'll just slip in there. So I'll just reuse this. I have no problem with that. So we'll just wire this 6 feet of cord that I have laying around into this system. Some of this originally wiring, it's all okay because this is all solid, and it has a it's almost like a fabric coating, but it's been dipped in varnish. And it looks like it kind of got smashed right in here before. I'm going to use what's called Tessa tape, which isn't really like electrical tape. It's actually fabric. And I'm going to, I don't think that the cloth does not look like it's cracking or fraying. There's actually no rubber around this. But I'm going to, if I can, if I don't just make a bigger mess out of it, actually wrap these just to give them a little bit more, I guess, life. And then to protect these connections that I have made, I'm actually gonna, that are all soldered together, I'm actually gonna use wire nuts. And I know most of this is a North American thing, and other places like the UK over there, they banned these back in the early days. But these ones are much better than the original ones. The original ones were just ceramic. They had no metal insert. These have a metal insert. But they do more than anything, because these are soldered together. They actually, the wires won't come apart. They shield amazingly well. So now this will keep it shielded from anything ever happening. And the fact that you twist the wire together, it makes great contact. It just really bites them together. And then just to be secure, we'll use some electrical tape, some good electrical tape. I'm so done with cheap electrical tape. I remember buying a 10-pack from Harbor Freight 15 years ago and swearing I would never ever buy a cheap roll again after I tried this. Somebody handed me this Scotch Super 33. Lovely. Never peels off. Never ever peels off. It's the greatest stuff ever. And then we'll just tuck all this in there, put the base plate back on, and then we'll wire the end of the cord on the other end of this lovely thing. So I loosened up the Allen key, and the blade doesn't really want to come off the motor shaft. I didn't really want to force it too hard. I haven't played around with it too much. But we can get the whole motor out of the housing, so I figured we would do that as well. So before we go too far, we'll just pull this motor out. The motor's coming out. There we go. Set the housing aside, and we've got our electric motor. Now we need to get in there. I guess I do need to take that. Yeah, this does need to come off so I can actually get in there and take the front of the motor off to get to the wiring inside the motor. And so we've all heard of the transmission fluid acetone mix. And so I usually just mix mine up on demand with carburetor cleaner, which is just pretty much acetone, and a little bit of transmission fluid. Let it soak in. Little carburetor cleaner, and you got your acetone oil on demand because it always separates. So it makes my life easier. I don't have to mix up a big bottle of it. And she's going to slide right off this time. Take these 4 screws out, and we should be able to take 1/2 off. And our rotor is going to come with us. This is your rotor. That's your stator. Because the rotor rotates, the stator stays. And we dropped some garbage down in there. And we lost our back bearing right there. A little thrust washer thing. And now it's a matter of wiring this thing in. And it looks like it actually goes to the back, so I got to take off the back as well. So take out the back, and we'll go to the root of the wiring because we're going to wire this cord. We're essentially going to go directly onto the windings themselves. Oh, there we go. And we'll put some new wire coming out of the motor. So got some new wire soldered on. Now we can put our rotor back in. And put all these shims. There we go. A bunch of shims and stuff they put on. Clean up the front. Some really lightweight oil, transmission fluid on there. I'll take our front housing, and which way's up? That way's up because there's the little Kitts Brothers port oiler. Throw that on, make sure I got that. That knot should be in a good spot so it never gets pulled. And get back together, put the screws back in, and we're golden. Leave the fan blade off for a minute while we try to get everything else situated, because now we need to run the wire through here, out through here, and we need to connect this one to that one. And I don't know if I want to kind of do it inside there. That's how they originally had it. How exactly I have room. I have tons of wire here, so I have more than I need. I'm soldered and some heat shrink on them. So now I like putting heat shrink, and then I like actually sealing between them, just as a, because you never know with heat shrink when you solder something, if you have a little stray wire that pokes through. I try to be very careful, but I still like to, even after I heat shrink them, if I'm putting 2 wires touching each other, I like just to put a barrier between them. So I was actually going to make some of these. So what I did is I actually took a just a random chunk of mud flap I had laying around, which is about 1/4 inch thick, and I cut out some circles about the same size. I have I have one original screw, but I have these other screws that somebody else put in. Where'd they all go? 2. There's a third one somewhere. 3. And what I want to do is, if you look in there really close, these type of things, there's actually a metal washer that's embedded in the rubber. But I was curious, and I've actually read, I kind of gave up years ago. Motor mounts and stuff are made this way, where you got a piece of metal that's bonded to a piece of rubber. And so I'm wondering if I punch a hole in here, just make a hole so the head fits through. The only thing I could find that anybody ever talked about was just super glue. So I'm going to use some of this Loctite super glue and see if I can bond the steel to the rubber. So first I just need to make a hole. I just cut these out with a pair of like wire cutters. So now let's make a hole in the middle that the head of the bolt will fit through with a little bit of slop. Yeah, that'll work. And so let's take this, we'll cut a hole. We'll let that sit and see if that bonds. So you can see the original one, and you can see the ones I bonded, and they're just attached to the washer and the screws in the middle. So we got 3 of those. So we'll see how well those hold up, or if they just, you know, peel right off. If anybody else has some advice for how to bond rubber to steel besides super glue, I'd love to hear it. Goodbye super dangerous wire. That's just gonna kill you. I mean, look at that sheathing. Just a bare wire underneath. Look how, that's pretty scary. And hello fan. So the moment of truth. No sparky, that's good. And we'll flip it to 1. 2, and full bore 3. So not a restoration, but a functional restoration. So now it works and operates, and I can use it and abuse it, and somebody else can take it if I decide to get rid of it, or if I decide that I absolutely am just in love with it, I'll sandblast it and restore the whole thing. But not right now. Other projects are more pressing than just a fan. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Luke, I am your father.